If you think about JavaScript and NPM being a mess, one of the first things that come to mind is leftpad, a package that does exactly what it says on the tin. It pads the left side of a string. This was long before this feature existed as a standard feature in JavaScript. And because of that, it was an incredibly popular package and was used as a dependency for tons and tons of packages. So when the developers decided, hey, I'm just going to pull the leftpad package from NPM, NPM had to go and implement an unpublished policy because this one package completely destroyed the NPM ecosystem. Now, this is by no means the only weird NPM package, and today I want to talk about two in particular. The first one being IsOdd, and the second one being IsEven, both by John Schlinkert. Now, you're probably thinking something fairly reasonable. Why is there an IsOdd and an IsEven? Couldn't you just flip the value and get the other one? Well, that's actually exactly what IsEven does. So, this is the entire IsEven code. It imports IsOdd and returns the flipped value. Let's go over to IsOdd. This one is quite a bit more substantial, but you're probably wondering, why isn't this the entire code? Modulo 2, if it equals 1, it's an odd number. JavaScript is a really weird language. Very, very bold air quotes on weird language. This language has things in it that should not be considered numbers, that are considered numbers. So if you want to be extra sure that you are checking if a number is an odd number, you do have to do a bit of extra parsing to make sure you're actually dealing with a number. Now, this actually relies on another library, that being IsNumber. This is another one also created by John Schlinkert. And here we have the bottom of the dependency tree. Now you're probably wondering, how many package downloads does this actually get? Surely nobody is actually using this package. It's such a simple bit of code. Well, 56 million weekly downloads for code, okay, for code that does this. That's the entire code. This project family has been so popular, it has spawned countless parodies, my favorite being this one by Samuel Marina, IsEven. Is a number even? It sounds like a very similar project, but the approach is a touch different. Let's look at the index.js. Sorry about that, but we can't show files that are this big right now. Let's look at view raw. Okay, give us some time. There we go. So, what it does is checks every single number, and the code base is still growing today if it is odd or if it is even. This is currently a 95 megabyte text file checking over numbers. My very close second is another project called Is13, which has a single job of checking if a number is 13, which sounds pretty straightforward. And you know, it is. But you can do it in a needlessly complex way. If you just go onto NPM or GitHub, search up IsOdd or IsEven, you are going to find countless projects that are trying to do something very, very similar. Now here's the fun part. IsOdd, IsEven, and IsNumber are only just scratching the surface of the packages made by John Schlinkert. Those are not the only ones. Not even slightly. So, on NPM, this person has 1,446 packages. Not every package is him being the owner, but if you scroll through the list, the vast majority are his packages. NPM doesn't have a way to filter between you're the owner and you're a collaborator on the project. I don't know why, it's really dumb, but just John Schlinkert. Every single one with a couple of others in between. Most of these, I would say probably 90% are his packages. For example, this is a package called ANSI Colors. Scroll down just a bit. The first person on here, John Schlinkert. This has 24 million downloads. You would assume that ANSI Colors does all of the ANSI things you need it to do. No, it doesn't. Because we have ANSI Reset, ANSI Bold, ANSI Italic, ANSI Underline, ANSI Inverse, ANSI Hidden, ANSI Strike Through, ANSI Black, ANSI Green, ANSI Yellow, ANSI Blue, ANSI Magenta, ANSI Cyan, ANSI White, ANSI Grey, ANSI BG Black, ANSI BG Red, ANSI BG Green, ANSI BG Yellow, ANSI BG Blue, ANSI BG Magenta, ANSI BG Cyan, and ANSI BG White. I am not joking. Search for any of them on NPM right now, and they are all going to be there, and all created by John Schlinkert. And as you might expect, the packages are as simple as they sound. This is the entire code, along with importing another one. Most of these early packages were created around 2014 and 2015, and over the years, they've been discovered on places like Reddit, on Hacker News, which usually leads to some of these users feeling like they have some sort of moral authority to go and brigade the GitHub. This has led the author to move the main ones, IsOdd and IsEven, into a GitHub organization called I Voted for Trump. This is a joke. You'll only see this org if you're attempting to troll me about repositories I created when I was learning to program. And as you would expect from the internet, there is a lot of people that have theories for why these packages exist. For example, the infamous NPM spammer John Schlinkert. This guy has even crazier packages like ANSI Red and lists out all of the ANSI packages. That effing ANSI Red package has 1.3 million weekly downloads. Spammer is a polite definition. His background is in marketing. The business he links, brandscale.com, is broken/abandoned. How long until we see these packages used as Trojan horses or sold to third parties? It's written by this guy, John Schlinkert, who describes himself as a blockchain developer. I think he might see value in the fact that a lot of computers are running his code. He could update his popular packages, IsOdd, IsEven, IsNumber, overnight, and start mining cryptocurrencies. And somehow, this got upvoted. It turns out the actual reason is a lot less sinister. I learned how to program in 2014. I created IsOdd after I'd only been programming for a few months, after I noticed that there were hundreds of thousands of views on the Stack Overflow question asking how to check for an odd number, not only about programming, but also about how publishing packages worked. In any case, since this thread is resting on the concept of IsOdd being a useless library, I'll focus on the code instead of the comments being made. Here is what you'll get with a popular suggestion of I modulo 2. This one comes out as false, this one comes out as true. I guess that's good enough for your code. To Bobcat, that's exactly what I was saying. Thanks for the upvote, and thanks for the nerd raging why it's not as simple as I modulo 2, specifically because of JavaScript's floating point error. Let me say it another way. In JavaScript, you might think you're testing an integer, when in fact, you're testing a float. If you didn't know, JavaScript doesn't have an integer type, it has 64-bit floating points, and that is all. This is conveniently being overlooked, but you wouldn't know my module existed if you weren't depending on code someone else wrote. You're complaining about small modules, but at the end of the day, developers need to decide for themselves what the balance is between relying on their own code or someone else's. You clearly don't write all your own code, or you wouldn't be complaining about dependencies right now. You want your dependency tree to be small, but you're still complaining about the work someone else did for free to create the libraries you're using. Webpack wouldn't exist if there wasn't anything to pack, so WTF. You're going to hate on a fellow developer because they created a library. Then all of a sudden, I have an evil scheme of world dominance, and it's all rooted in IsOdd. Mwahaha! It's working. And in another thread, someone basically just called him a terrible person because he was trying to inject his packages into other code bases. Wow, that's harsh. I consider myself a pretty nice guy, but since this is about code specifically, it's really strange you would make a connection like that. I don't think I've ever done a single pull request to add anything I've created to anyone else's project. If you're using my code, it's because someone else thought it was useful. Basically, his main point is yes, he made the packages, and yes, there is a lot of them. He doesn't say specifically that maybe he shouldn't have had all of these individual little packages for every little possible feature. I will say that though, but the main point he has is even though he made them, it's not his fault that people chose to use them. People found that they were useful, so they decided to integrate them into their project. Don't blame him for other people finding the code useful. That's their fault for not wanting to just go and copy the code over themselves. Say, for example, I publish some malware, and I call this malware, do not install. And then all of these other people go and install the malware. You don't then complain, oh my god, why are you distributing malware? How dare you make me integrate this into my system? I just released it, mate. That's on you. Honestly, the exact same thing happened with LeftPad. It was 14 lines of code. There was absolutely no reason for people to be installing the LeftPad package. They should have taken the code, put it into their code base, and basically been done with it. It wouldn't have caused any issue, and we wouldn't be talking about LeftPad still. But they didn't, and it caused absolute chaos. Now, that doesn't mean he hasn't tried to benefit from making all of these packages. Over on his GitHub it says this: "Hi, I'm John. I'm a full-time open source developer and single dad. To date, I've created more than 1,000 open source projects in an effort to reach my goal. Open source software takes a lot of time to create and maintain, and millions of projects now depend on my code. You can help me to achieve my goals of improving the world through code, help me create better developer experiences, or just say thank you by sponsoring me on GitHub. Any and all contributions are greatly appreciated." Now, a good portion of these 1,000 open source projects haven't been updated in 6+ years, so it's probably a lot less than 1,000 now. He is absolutely still an active developer, and just this year alone has committed close to 1,700 times. Like, he is still very hard at work in this space. But 1,000? I'm gonna have to say cap on that. But you know what? I cannot fault someone for trying to profit off a decision they made 10 years ago, because if I was in this situation, I'd be doing the exact same thing. At the end of the day, most of these packages only exist because JavaScript is an absolute mess of a language. If JavaScript had proper typing, or even duck typing, that acted in a way that makes sense, you wouldn't need something like isNumber, because numbers would operate like a number. Nowadays, things are a lot better in regards to the functionality, but that core stuff is still just as broken as it's ever been. Just use TypeScript. It's just gonna be better. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you know that IsOdd and IsEven existed? Did you know about any of the other packages created by John Schlinkert? I would love to know. So if you liked the video, go like the video. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon subscribes to the VeriPay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and am I odd? Or am I even?
Something like this.